Week 1 is in the books, besides Monday Night Football, and we have a ton of new information. There's overreactions, there's underreactions. Let's properly react and make some rankings changes, players that are skyrocketing up our rankings. Danny, I'll let you get it kicked off with the first guy that is skyrocketing up your rest of season rankings.
Yeah, my first overall player skyrocketing up my rankings, and honestly, shame on me for even having him low in the cycle. Like, talent-wise, he should have been higher. Opportunity-wise, he should have been higher. I will take the L already. Justin Herbert, I had way too low in the draft season. And part of it was like, I thought the quarterbacks like 13 to 18 kind of blended in together. But I should have clocked in that if this offense simply threw more than the market expected, he would be a top 8 quarterback. Because like we said, I mean, you got the size, you now got the mobility. He was actually running the football in week 1, Friday Night Football against the Chiefs, over 30 rushing yards. They had another play that was called back, like a 20-yard rushing gain. If you're getting that type of mobile Justin Herbert on top of a team that I would say was the biggest winner in terms of their expectation as a passing unit versus what ended up happening. Tetairoa actually put out this tweet. The Chargers in week 1 had a 13.5 pass rate over expectation. For reference, last year, there was just one team above a 7% pass rate over expectation last year. I'm not saying the Chargers are going to be at 13% every week. I'm just pointing out the fact that reading the tea leaves of the offseason, the team drafts Amari Hampton. We know what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. We heard, Greg Roman, what he does with his ground game. We saw the Chargers embrace the fact that they have one of the aliens, one of the top 5, top 7 overall quarterback, and they trusted him to lead their offense. All 3 wide receivers here are viable now. Keenan Allen looked good. Quentin Johnson, the huge game. Ladd McConkey, a bona fide wide receiver 1. Justin Herbert, an elite quarterback, has an elite supporting cast. So to me, quarterback 18, like I said, completely wrong. He is up to quarterback 7 for me going forward.
Yeah, I had him. I was adjusting a little bit throughout the fantasy news cycle because as I went through the training camp period, we did hear Chargers beat reporters say, I think everybody assumes this team is just going to be super run heavy, but they also drafted Trey Harris. They brought in Keenan Allen. Quentin Johnston was taking a step forward in training camp, as we saw in that first game. And of course, Ladd McConkey is Ladd McConkey. They also drafted Oronde Gadsden. They brought in some tight ends. Amari Hampton's a good receiver, so it's not like he can't contribute in that regard. Yeah, I think this was a big surprise to all of us. I had Justin Herbert a little bit higher than you. I think I'm like quarterback 14 or 15 going into the season. But yeah, he is up to that tier of guys like Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes and, Kyler Murray, if he can get his head on straight. He was a little bit sick in that first game. Justin Herbert's got to be right in that territory, and you can definitely argue he's at the top of that territory as well, maybe even knocking on the Joe Burrow territory, potentially, if we see more usage like this.
So I actually have him in that tier. I have him in the tier, him, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes as a 3-man tier. I really do think, given the overall ceiling of player that all 3 of those guys are, on top of the, like I said, sneaky mobility that we saw from Herbert, like if he's going to give you 30 plus rushing yards a game, like why shouldn't he be a top 7 quarterback, in all honesty?
We'll see if that keeps up. If they have a little bit of a more cupcake kind of rushing matchup, do they stick to the run? Do they let Amari and Hampton kind of win them the game? But we'll have to wait and see there. Number 1 riser for me is also from the first couple games here. Javonte Williams of the Dallas Cowboys went from, I had him buried, dude. I had him running back 45 in my rankings going into the season because I thought there was an outside chance that one of Miles Sanders or Jaden Blue outright wins this backfield. But he is my running back 27 now. Javonte Williams looked better than 2022 to 2023 Javonte Williams. He punches in 2 touchdowns. He commands 77% of the snaps, 77% of the opportunities, 77% of the routes. That is an exceptional workload. Jaden Blue was inactive for that first game. So again, maybe that receiving stuff, if Blue gets up for a game, goes down a little bit, but Dak played really well. If the receivers can catch the football consistently, this team will probably be in the red zone pretty often. If Javonte is running that many routes and getting the goal line touches, well, that's the valuable shit. That's the stuff that you want in this offense. Even if Javonte, he wasn't efficient on the ground, and the Eagles have a good run defense even without Jalen Carter. He only went 15 for 54, but he looked better. He looked more like 2021 Javonte Williams.
And that is going to be the only question mark for Javonte Williams going forward. If he's going to produce in fantasy football, it's not going to be because, we think he's going to get back to the prime level Javonte. In fact, I think what we saw on Thursday night, high 3 yards per carry, low forwards, physical runs, probably not a ton of gash plays, but he's a guy that is not going to go down on first contact. The toughness element to this offense was apparent. We saw up front, Tyler Booker, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe. They were generating push in the interior. I really think Clayton Adams specifically set a physical tone in that offensive line room, and you saw it happen. I mean, the Eagles, even despite not having Jalen Carter, still one of the single most talented defensive lines in the league. And the Cowboys' offensive line was really pushing back. So I think that's the positive sign. We were like, okay, maybe will the Cowboys even be able to run the football? Will the talent level of Javonte Williams even matter at this point because they're just getting overwhelmed in the trenches? The signs that we saw against the Philadelphia Eagles, by the way, week 6 on last year, number 1 in EPA per play against the rush game last year. The fact that they were fighting up front is the most encouraging thing. And on top of that, Javonte Williams looked the healthiest he has in 2 years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even Sanders broke off a long run. Like just the success of the ground game in general and the way that Prescott looked, of course, as the passing quarterback, he looked healthy. He was able to get the ball to his guys and whatnot. Just bullish signs all around from Javonte Williams. And I think if you drafted him in the 10th round or 9th round or wherever he was going for the most part, you probably feel pretty good that you have at least an every week flex starter, if not potentially better.
Yeah, I mean, every year we look at it, when you draft, young, high upside rookie running backs, can you get a veteran back that can get you through that early portion of the year? If Javonte's going to be able to get you those 15 plus touches with goal line equity in an offense that is, at this point, I would say above everybody's expectations, even my own. I mean, the play action rate, what Schottenheimer was doing to really orchestrate the whole unit, like they had one of the single best defenses in the NFL on their heels the majority of that game.
Yeah, no, they did for sure. And I think schematically, like you said, was the big determining factor there. So number 2, skyrocketing player up your rankings is who?
Man, talk about schematically. This is a Hall of Fame player that is a glove fit for a Hall of Fame. Like we're talking about probably one of the best, most talented offenses we'll ever see right now.
Well, dude, I said it, but okay, obviously the game went the other way by the end of it, but I do really think that this is the year that the Baltimore Ravens win the Super Bowl, man, because their roster up and down, secondary, linebackers,
it's unbelievable,
defensive line, offensive line, running back, who
Lamar
you're talking
Jackson,
about now, receivers actually making plays for Lamar Jackson, who is one of the best quarterbacks maybe in history, especially dual threat wise.
What I learned from that game, and obviously the player we're referencing here, Derrick Henry, up from RB7 to RB5. I'll talk about specifically who he jumped in a second, but let's just appreciate the level of quarterback play we saw in that game. I mean, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, for being the number 1 and number 2 MVP vote getters last year, almost looked like they got better this offseason. Like I was watching perfect quarterback play on display on Sunday night. Seeing that on display, seeing what his quarterbacks are able to do, what his offensive line generates up front, the creativity of Todd Monken, and Derrick Henry himself looking like the best version we have seen of Henry in his career. 18 carries, 169 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 40 burger from the offense. The fact that he scored nearly 30 PPR points on 18 total opportunities, you're not getting a situation in the league like Baltimore that is going to be able to do that for you. And you're not getting a player in the league like Derrick Henry that's going to be able to do that. He showed no signs of slowing down. And it's hard not seeing him replicating that 2024 season based off what we saw from opening weekend. The Ravens, they're going to be playing ahead in a lot of scripts. I would be shocked if this team didn't win 13, 14, 15 games this year. And you're banking on elite efficiency and you're banking on elite touchdown equity with Henry. And for that reason alone, I mean, if I had to draft right now, if I'm going into the season and I had to draft with the knowledge that we have after week 1, am I really going to draft the Raiders running back over him? Am I really going to draft the Miami running back over him? Like, again, I love Devon Achane. I love Ashton Genty. I think they're stud players, but their situations alone were enough for me to move Henry over them.
Yeah, I actually have Henry over McCaffrey too. I think the downside risk of McCaffrey, like who do I trust more if they're on the Wednesday injury report, Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey? And the answer is Derrick Henry. So even though, yes, Christian McCaffrey in PPR leagues probably has the advantage because McCaffrey had like 27 points or something without scoring a touchdown because he's just that dominant of a receiving back. And now that all the injuries in the Kittle and Jennings and Ayuk and all this kind of stuff, you probably could argue that he should be ahead of Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry just feels so locked in. This like cryogenic chamber hill running shit that he's doing in the offseason is literally turning back time for this man.
How many players in fantasy football right now can you plug into your lineup and feel better about than Derrick Henry? Like when you go and you put this guy in your lineup and you watch him on Sundays and he's running people over and the Baltimore Ravens are scoring 40 plus points, you're just having a great Sunday.
Yeah, you feel like I can name only 3 running backs. Like I said, I have them ranked 4th at running back, and there's only a handful of receivers that you can feel better about even too, because you can argue, hey, if we redrafted today, maybe Derrick Henry's the 107 or the 108 or something like that. And like my commissioner, Amir, who you guys saw in the draft log there, we were in Discord yesterday watching this game, and he goes, dude, why did you not take Derrick Henry at 9th overall? And again, Puka had a great game, so it's not like Puka was a bad pick necessarily, but he's kind of right. It's like, why did I not take Derrick Henry 9th overall? Let's pivot over to Breece Hall, who is my skyrocketing number 2 here. I already had him higher than market. I had him RB15 going into the season. I saw people ranking him RB23 and shit like that. RB12 is where he's at in my rankings right now. And there's primary reasons for it, but 58% snap share, 53% of the routes. I wouldn't say that's surprising. That's probably about the usage that I expected from Breece Hall, but he by far looked like the best running back in the backfield. Yeah. He did get sniped on the goal line. Braylon Allen, 6 for 9, trudging ass, rolled into the end zone and stole the touchdown. But 19 for 107 on the ground, that is the story of Breece Hall, because the story here is Fields look better than we thought, which is great news for Breece Hall. O-line, Membu mauled people, and he looked like an absolute star at the tackle position who they spent a top 10 pick on. And most importantly, Breece Hall looked like Breece Hall.
Yeah, and that's the main thing, because he was dealing with the MCL sprain last year that really impacted our view of him. And I mean, I can speak from experience. Last year, having Breece Hall in the flock league, having to watch, 2.2 yard per carry Braylon Allen rumbling into the end zone every now and then. Like, nothing's more annoying than a guy that gets hype on the internet who's actually really bad at their job, taking work from the guy who's good at their job. Because Braylon Allen gets all the hype in the world. Look at him. He's so young. He's 6'2", 240. What a tank. Let's get him running between the tackles. It's like, maybe the reason why he doesn't run between the tackles more than Breece does is because he's not as good as him.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing. Like, Breece wasn't good last year, and the latent second year off the ACL tear, when you had 300 plus touches the year before, maybe took a toll on his knee and took a toll on his body.
Still
and
more
that's why
efficient
he
than
wasn't
Braylon.
Good last year. But that Breece Hall that I just watched, that's rookie year Breece Hall. That's 2023 after the training wheels are off comments, Breece Hall. That's what I just saw. And not only that, dude, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense got gashed by the Jets offense. Like, I know they didn't win the game, but they looked great relative to expectations.
37.5 over under in that game. Was that supposed to be like for each team?
Yeah, like they almost both hit it by themselves. So yeah, while Breece Hall's 16.5 fantasy points wasn't like exceptional, the Jets offense looked good. And Justin Fields looked like he actually understood reads and looked like he actually understood pocket manipulation and was running the ball himself. Like, the big draw for me on Breece Hall and why I still liked him was that Justin Fields was going to open up those long Breece Hall runs that we got so accustomed to in his first 2 years, because Justin Fields is such a threat with his legs. And that's exactly what happened in that first game.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. Breece Hall also up to RB13 in my rankings. All the signs you wanted to see. He looked healthier as a player. The vibes for the Jets were a lot better. Again, we'll see what ends up happening going forward. I don't think the Jets are going to be a 30-plus point per game scoring unit throughout. Otherwise, I'm going to be in big trouble with the lack of Justin Fields I have in my portfolio. But in terms of Breece
Hall, I am too. But Aaron Glenn gentrified that fucking franchise, man. Like, when you see how they played, how the vibes were.
The good coaching, by the way.
He's just on the sideline flexing on people, like so gassed up to be coaching this team. And that's what they missed. Yeah. That's what Robert Saleh used to be before Aaron Rodgers got there.
It's so funny. You get a toxic personality in a locker room and it just changes everybody else's personality.
Yeah, and I think it's only a matter of time before it leaks into Pittsburgh, but they're riding off some good vibes for the first game of the season. Who do you got number 2 for you?
Yeah, and my next 2 players actually both play on the same team. And this wasn't an obvious one. We have to address this. Do I think it's going to be something that's going to continue moving forward? Maybe not, but we won't know until we see week 2 come around. And Zach Charbonnet is a guy that I've risen from RB39 to RB32 in my rankings. Conversely, Kenneth Walker down from RB13 to RB16. Now, I'm not ready to quit Kenneth Walker. He was one of my favorite breakout candidates coming into the year, and I still do love his fit with the Kubiak run scheme. I will say, though, there's no denying that there's a panic level. After watching what Zach Charbonnet did in this game, he did only have one less touch than Walker throughout the contest. He started it off obviously hot. To me, when I look at this situation for Walker, I think part of it might be because of the offseason injury. The foot injury held him out for a lot of that camp. He just gets started, the final week going into the season. Maybe the coaches are like, oh, we know what we have with Charbonnet. We want to take it easy with Kenneth Walker. We want to make sure that foot doesn't flare. That could definitely be the case. However, if that is the case, we're going to need to see Kenneth Walker assume his full workload going forward, because otherwise, Zach Charbonnet, like I said, rose 7 spots. If we get the same usage we saw from week 1, these guys should both be within the few spots of each other.
Yeah, and if it keeps up like this backfield is going to be a complete and utter headache because, we'll talk about it on your next riser, but Sam Darnold didn't look great either. It was kind of a tough environment. The 49ers got after him. The O-line was not holding up for him, but he didn't look like Minnesota Vikings, Sam Darnold. Let's just put it that way. So this offense, if it's not going to be kind of humming and rolling the QBs, making plays or whatever, if this is more of a split backfield or closer to a 50-50 timeshare, it's going to be kind of bad news for everybody involved. It's good news for Charbonnet, I suppose, if you drafted him. But Walker, you definitely don't love to see that. But like you said, it could possibly be because he missed a lot of training camp and missed a lot of the offseason program. And that's why maybe there was a bit of a slow start. It also seemed like Charbonnet was more the first half back and Walker was the second half back. So maybe it was even disciplinary or something. I'm not exactly sure why he wasn't on the field in the first half.
And that's the thing too, because when the game first started, I was like, oh my fucking God, is Zach Charbonnet just the starting running back? He was in there basically every snap. He handled the goal line work. I was really panicking to start that game. And then you look at the final tally on the box score and Kenneth Walker actually out-touched him. So it's I'm not ready to fully give up here. I did have to drop him a few spots because a couple of the running backs I think deserve to be higher at this point. But the same Kenneth Walker that I had as one of my top breakouts, I think still exists. We just need to see him assume that full workload.
Yeah. And this was a kind of a tougher matchup generally for the run as well. So maybe it was a matchup thing that Clint Kubiak decided to do. We don't exactly know. I think that he could possibly kind of change up the rotation every single week. Some coaches keep the rotation the same. Ben Johnson generally kept the rotation the same with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs last year. But some coaches throwing change ups sometimes and featuring one guy one week and another guy the next, which is a huge headache for us in fantasy. But Deebo Samuel is my next riser. Wide receiver 44 down to wide receiver 32 for me. There was a lot of stink on Deebo, but it was a lot to do with his weight and how good he was at this point in his career. I packed my bags early on Deebo. I remember when he was really cheap on Underdog, I was drafting him a lot, but then he got more expensive because Terry McLaurin was holding out and I kind of cooled off on him and stopped drafting him. Him and Jaden Daniels connected for a 35% target share in week 1. Now, again, maybe it's because him and Jaden Daniels got a lot of reps in together because Terry was holding out. But the gap, at the very least, got to be tightening up between these two guys because you look at what Terry McLaurin did last year, and he wasn't a super high target share guy. Yeah, he scored 13 touchdowns, but he also was competing for targets with Noah Brown and Olamide Zaccheaus most of the year. So we saw that design usage of Deebo Samuel in San Francisco carry over to Washington. He scored on a rushing touchdown. He had 20% screens there. That red zone carry obviously made your money if you started Deebo Samuel, but yeah, he's got to be rising up the rankings. If Terry McLaurin in ADP was wide receiver 17 to 20 or whatever he was, and Deebo Samuel was in the 40s, you got to at least make the argument now. I have it ranked wide receiver 32 for Deebo Samuel and then wide receiver 24 for Terry McLaurin. I think you got to tighten that up. And McLaurin, maybe he's a buy low candidate. He's just starting out slow or whatever. But Deebo Samuel looked like Deebo Samuel also. And that's the other big part of this.
Yeah, wide receiver 28 for Terry, wide receiver 35 for me with Deebo. I think you pretty much echoed it. If I asked you to give me odds on who outscores who by the end of the year, you would probably still lean Terry, but at what capacity? At what capacity though?
60%. Probably he wins. Yeah, 60% he outscores him. Especially if Deebo is going to get the design touches, the manufactured work, because Deebo looked like he won on a lot of his routes and he was actually able to win as a real wide receiver. And even in San Francisco, they didn't actually ask him to run a whole lot of real wide receiver stuff. A lot of the time he was primarily a design touches guy, but other than that 2021 season and a little bit of 2023, Deebo wasn't really winning on his routes consistently. And he looked more explosive and looked like he was able to play the guitar at a high level there. So I actually really actually feel good that I got suckered into drafting Deebo Samuel in our listener league by you guys.
Yeah. I can't really say the same about David Montgomery.
Yeah, no, that did not go well at Detroit, but who do you got next?
Yeah, so my number 4 player skyrocketing up my rankings, and it's technically only by a few spots, but I'm validated, man. Wide receiver 14, all the way up to wide receiver 11. And at wide receiver 11, we're talking about ranking him straight up over guys like A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., and T. Higgins.
Oof.
But that's where I think Jaxon Smith-Njigba should be after that first game. What we saw from Jaxon Smith-Njigba makes me think that he's about to take that Amon-Ra St. Brown level step as the clear target hog of this offense. He was the definition of an alpha against the 49ers. 49ers, by the way, last year, only 193 receiving yards allowed per game. And we have Jaxon Smith-Njigba absolutely crushing this week. If he keeps this up, I think he profiles as a league-winning wide receiver. And this is a Puka Nacua level route dominance. This tweet from Dwayne McFarland, 19.4 PPR points, fine and dandy. But the metric specifically is what we look at. 92% of the routes, 59% of the targets, 90% of the team air yards. He also got 29% of the slot snaps, 23% of the screens. But more importantly, Bush, 5.63 yards per route. We are talking about one of the more dominant performances we've seen from a wide receiver in a while. And this is with the fact that the offense put up 13 points against a challenging defense. He was a near 18 PPR point per game scorer down the stretch, second half of last year. And I see no reason why he can't do that for the majority of 2025, for the entirety of 2025. To me, he rises a clear top 12 wide receiver. And really, him and Ladd McConkey are the two guys threatening that top tier for me.
Yeah, I have it ranked just a little bit differently than you do by the sounds of it, because I do actually still have JSN in the tier with I have him still behind Marvin Harrison because I was really impressed with what he did. Garrett Wilson and JSN are both like two peas in a pod right now. They're just absolutely dominant Ohio State wide receivers and offenses that I have some concerns with, but they themselves are playing well and are getting just absurdly high target shares. So that's where I'm at with JSN. I moved him up 2 spots. I didn't move him up crazy. I did move him ahead of T. Higgins and Wilson specifically, but I'm still going to hold out hope that AJ Brown probably outscores him. That would be my one gripe, I guess, with what your argument was on JSN, because I think Darnold actually did look not great. That's my one concern here, is that even if JSN is a 30+% target share guy all year long, I am kind of worried how many points this team is scoring.
It's more so banking on the fact that I think Darnold will look better against a non-Niners defense. And on top of that, with AJ Brown specifically, I have no clue what's going on with him. Is it the hamstring injury? We have a report that there was not a single route that he separated on against the Cowboys. Oof. He's got to be hurt.
Yeah, he did come into the season hurt, so that would kind of add up. But yeah, regardless, I do think JSN probably has to be on the rise with that level of dominance. Because like you said, in PPR leagues, man, this guy literally might have a 15 point per game floor like Amon-Ra St. Brown has had for the last couple of years. So let's move on to my number 4 here, which is Travis Etienne, which, similar to Breece Hall, was left for dead by the fantasy community. Running back 23 is where he resides in my rankings now. And I actually had him above market before this. I had him at RB 29. The last couple of weeks, especially, as the offseason went along, I was waiting for Travis to get traded. And when it didn't happen, I was starting to think that Travis might just be back to his old shit, because I do think that if he was bad, if he was not playing well and the Jaguars coaching staff was okay, we're going to give Tank Bigsby the starting job, he would have been off this team. 40 of the offensive snaps to 14 for Tank Bigsby and 4 for Byshell Tootin. He ran 53.5% of the running back routes. I made this argument before on Travis, and I also made this argument for Breece as well, because they're very similar. They're both RB1s in their prime type of players, because they finished as RB1s before and they're still under the age of 27. In 2017 through 2020 at Clemson, Travis was great at football. In 2022, after he came back from missing his rookie season, he was great at football. In 2023, when he finished as an RB1 in points per game, he was great at football. Last year was the only season in which he was not good at football. If you look at a whole sample of Travis Etienne's football playing career, he was really good at football most of the time. And in week 1, Jared Small tweeted this out. He was number 1 in rush yards over expected. So yes, Travis Etienne, maybe we can't trust him a little bit because Tank is still there and Tootin and all this kind of stuff. But first of all, this rushing offense looked reinvigorated with Liam Cohen, even though there was delays in the game and all this kind of shit. They were on schedule. They were on time. The offensive line was getting pushed, and Travis looked great. Again, very similar to Breece and very similar to Deebo. I just used my eyes with a lot of these guys. I'm like, that looks like Travis from before.
Yeah, sometimes the eyeball test is going to help you a lot here. Travis Etienne, you can make the argument that was his best career game. Straight up.
Yeah, it was his highest career rushing yards, I believe.
Yeah, and he had 16 carries for $143, I think it ended up being.
Yeah, and he almost housed that run too. He had a 70-yard run that he was narrowly caught from behind on.
Dude, it's just the way he was moving specifically. He hasn't moved like that in years. The running style he has is just so conducive to kind of making people miss in space.
Yeah, and he's getting the receiving work too. So like that's the other part of this offense is that I think Lawrence definitely will, and like Lawrence and him have played together since college. Like they have a good connection in the receiving game. He's always going to be a part of that for that reason. And who knows, maybe that's why he never got traded. Maybe Trevor's like, don't trade this guy. You just paid me a shit ton of money. I've played with this guy since 2017 or whatever at Clemson. I don't want him off of this roster.
Yeah, Etienne, very good game. We look at the near future, games against Cincinnati, Houston, San Francisco on the docket. So we'll see if he can end up being, a 19 opportunity per game back. Because if he can continue that type of workload, we're not even talking about a skyrocketer. We're talking about a league winner.
Yeah, no, especially where you got him. Like, this is why I do those archetype videos, because he was an RB1 in his prime and he was not being drafted like one, because they usually go very, very high in drafts. Who do you got for your last guy? And we can rapid fire these last two, hopefully.
Ricky Pearsall up from wide receiver 40 to wide receiver 32 in my rankings. And the main reason why is that he looked good. And both George Kittle and Juwan Jennings exited this game with injuries. Not to mention, when we talk about forecasting the 49ers offense going forward, if those guys are going to be missing any time, Ricky Pearsall is a top 2 receiving weapon in this offense with Christian McCaffrey. We expected McCaffrey, 10 targets in that game, looked like Christian McCaffrey of old. But Ricky Pearsall also looked really good. 7 targets, 4 catches, 108 yards in a difficult matchup. And he was used all across the formation. Not to mention next 3 games, going up against the Saints, going up against the Cardinals, going up against the Jaguars, all games that the Niners are going to be implied for a high total. So with Ricky Pearsall, until we get further confirmation of what's going on, George Kittle dealing with that hamstring injury, Juwan Jennings dealing with that shoulder injury, I think he has to be treated as a mid-end wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I think you can make the argument. You go like, would you rather have Ricky Pearsall or Calvin Ridley rest of the season? Yeah. Would you rather have Ricky Pearsall or, like we talked about Deebo already, would you rather have Ricky Pearsall or the Bears receivers? Like it's a conversation point for Ricky right now, because like you said, if these guys are going to miss time, even if they're not, like I just saw Ricky look like he can earn targets and be a consistent part of this offense. Even if George Kittle is back next week, I don't think Jennings is a major threat to his target share anyways. And we know Ayuk probably won't be at least healthy until like week 7, week 8.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, overall, very exciting. If you are a 49ers guy and you saw Pearsall look that way, he might be the saving grace for what's been, the single biggest turnover in a depth room, like in the league. Like you look at the 49ers receivers, losing Ayuk, losing Deebo, having obviously George Kittle, Juwan Jennings get hurt. Like you're losing your top 4 targets from last year.
Yeah, no, like there's some decimation on that depth chart right now. So Pearsall is going to probably take advantage of it. Tetairoa McMillan is the final guy in this video. T-Mac was wide receiver 20 for me pre-season. So I was already high on the guy. Like I got him at the 509 in my home league vlog that you guys would have watched there. He's my wide receiver 15, and 5 for 68 doesn't scream riser after week 1. But here's why I rose him in my rankings. First of all, when Bryce plays that bad, because Bryce was not good in this game, and T-Mac has 11.8 PPR points plus a sick one-handed catch that didn't count because it was a PI. There was no reason they should have challenged it. He got he caught that ball though. Like that was a catch, and it didn't count for him because it was pass interference. They just took the yardage, whatever. It doesn't really matter. And he also had like a near 30+ yard touchdown that hit him in the hands, and the DB makes a great play on it. So if that all goes wrong, and he still has 12 fantasy points, I think I feel pretty comfortable about it, because he could have very easily had 25 points in this game. And Bryce Young is going to play better than that. It's 1 week. It was a road game. Delays disrupting your rhythm and all that. I'm not all that worried about Bryce Young. Honestly, I know he looked bad in this game, but I feel pretty confident that he's going to play better. And here's the other thing too. I just want to make one more point on T-Mac. He was raw. He was a raw prospect, and I did not adjust to Brian Thomas looking as good as he did in week 1 through 4 last year. And I'm not making that mistake again, because Tetairoa McMillan had every excuse for my money based on what I scouted on tape as a prospect to look a little bit like Xavier Legette looked in this game, which is like, can't get his feet down on the sideline and stuff like that. Just the little details I didn't see missing out of Tetairoa McMillan's game, and that is exciting.
The best part, and it kind of reminds me of, if you remember Drake London when he first came in, and everybody was saying, oh my God, well, with Drake London, because that was like, I believe after Kyle Pitts started looking bad / getting hurt, people were like, well, look at the wide receivers on the depth chart after him and tell me he's not going to get 15 targets a game. When you see the other wide receivers getting snaps for the Carolina Panthers this week, being Xavier Legette, who still hasn't figured it out in the league, Hunter Renfrow, David Moore, and Corey, who is Bryson Tremaine?
That's a made up person. It's a made up person for sure. But yeah, dude, T-Mac, got a little unlucky in this game and still almost had a monster performance. So yes, Bryce looked bad. People are going to be, that's why he's almost like a riser for me, is because I feel like he's also a good buy low generally, because he could have very easily had a 25-point performance.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I was watching that game pretty in depth, obviously, with the fact that I have Travis Hunter in so many spots. And yeah, with him and Tetairoa McMillan, I have both those guys as top 16 wide receivers rest of the year. I moved them over to Javonte Adams because the way I look at it is when these young rookies show you that they can be 25+% target share players right off the bat. I mean, for example, Tetairoa McMillan, 8 targets in the game, Travis Hunter, 8 targets in that game. You should just take that sign and run with it.
Yeah, I didn't really move Hunter from where he was before. I thought I felt kind of, okay, this is about what I expected from him in his first game.
Target share?
I mean, that was fine. I liked the design touches, but he looked more like a rookie than McMillan did.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall the offense was kind of just weird as a whole in Jacksonville. We have BTJ. His biggest contribution to the game was on an end around.
Yeah, which is weird. But yeah, I think generally speaking, the usage should correct itself for the Jaguars. Regardless, the one guy that did miss this list that we definitely need to talk about just quickly is Keon Coleman, who had a 25 fantasy point performance. A lot of it, people are going to say, oh, sell high, it was garbage time, all this kind of stuff. They were playing comeback mode. I don't know, dude. I ain't seen Keon Coleman look like that. I saw people tweet like, oh, sell Keon Coleman after this week. He's just getting fed in a positive game script.
I have to address that because I've seen that with the Cowboys a couple times. It'll be like, it ended up being like a 1-score game, but because it was a 17-point game at one point and they're throwing the football, people just love saying garbage time. Anybody saying garbage time? They won the game. That's the number one thing. Like, but the thing is, even if they ended up losing 40-38, people would have been like, well, I was right. They didn't end up winning the game. It was garbage time. It's like, guys, when a game is within 15 points in the NFL, that is not garbage time. The other team still badly wants to keep you out of the end zone. It's not garbage time.
No, definitely was not garbage time. But regardless, yeah, Keon Coleman definitely has to be on the rise. I think he was my wide receiver like 52 or something like that. And I moved him all the way up to wide receiver 42 after that performance. I want to see him do it again. I want to see him be a little bit more consistent. But yeah, definitely a nice performance for him.
I got a question for you. You're facing it down right now. You have to have one rest of the season based off what we saw in week 1 and what we had going into the season, because it's kind of like different parallels for both these players. Josh Downs or Keon Coleman?
I'd rather have Josh Downs still. I do still have Josh Downs ranked higher, but they're in the same tier now, and they definitely were not in the same tier before.
Yeah, I will say with Downs, the usage isn't where we wanted it to be. Tyler Warren was kind of operating that middle of the field, but I mean, even still him, Keon Coleman, the fact that Coleman's in this discussion just points to the fact that he improved as a player.
Yeah, definitely looked a lot better in that game, but if you guys do want all of our rest of season rankings, they are up to date. Make some trades, use our trade calculator, use the My Teams feature, see where your team stacks up after that first game. We still got one more to go, obviously, with the Vikings and Bears tonight. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to the end. Check out flockfantasy.com for all that stuff. Weekly rankings for next week will be live soon, obviously. And then, of course, if you guys do want to get a free team review, a little check-in on your team, you guys can see that down below. You get a free one when you sign up for an annual Mother Flocker, and you can also still get the season pass to get access to our rest of season rankings, weekly rankings, and all that good stuff for the rest of the fantasy football season. All of that will be linked down below in the pinned comment there. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.